So, in part one, we dealt with how we got to the Rick Murray situation and the events leading up to in season 4 to Rick Murray's demise. In episode 2, we've dealt with the students who basically may have had a touch of villainy, but you can't blame them for anything villainous. Like Toby, people think Toby's a villain for giving Darcy $5 to kiss Rick. People think that Simpson's a villain because of the fact he didn't stop the bullying from happening, and he was a teacher. People blame Jimmy because he was part of the group to destroy Rick at first. People think that Rick's parents are villains because they didn't press Rick hard enough for their answers. They basically believed every word he said. And people even blame Sean because maybe Sean caused it by basically telling Spinner, Jay, and Alex that you don't want to go to Raditch with the circle of the X because of the fact that Raditch will ask them questions. No, that's just too easy. I explained everything, but basically now we come to the singular characters and why they could be villains or not. This is part 3 of the Villainy of season 4. Oh yes, Paige Michaelchuk. A lot of people will be probably saying, why do I think she's a villain and all that? Why did I give her a special episode? Well, there are many reasons. But anyway, Paige Michaelchuk in season 1 and 2 basically was the it girl, the gossip girl, the queen bee, the hun of Degrassi Community School. She set up Power Squad, a cheerleading thing for Degrassi, and basically said that we'll try our best not to be sexist because we have males on the squad too. Other than mascot, which usually was JT, was she right or was she wrong? She probably was wrong. Anyway, Paige basically came off in the first few seasons as someone who basically was bossy, manipulative, and other things. And she basically kept Hazel and Terry as friends and all that. And basically told them that they would never get another friend group if they leave her friend group for Ashley in season 2. Ashley was trying to make amends for her mistakes in season 1 to the group in season 2, but unfortunately Hazel and Terry decided on the poor judgment of being in Paige's clique more so than being with Ashley. Ashley turns goth and basically separates herself. But in season 3, Paige would have a different problem. We all know about her rape and all that, being raped in season 2 and all that, but we'll get more to that when we talk about season 4. But anyway, in season 3, Paige notices that one of her best friends, Terry, is with Rick and doesn't mind it. But when Rick basically abuses Terry emotionally, not physically, but emotionally, and tells Terry to buy certain foods to make her lose weight, she's worried. I know Paige can be a piece of crap sometimes, but basically she cares about Terry. And basically Paige didn't like it when Terry, stood up for Rick in front of her. And Paige is like, Terry, he's not the right guy for you. What are you doing? Paige, of course, was upset that Terry would choose Rick over her. But in the way, she was happy when Terry broke up with Rick because Rick had pushed her into a wall. All that. However, she was disgusted by the fact that Terry went back to Rick a few episodes later. Paige had her family's minivan and would take a road trip with Jimmy and his new squeeze Hazel, while her and Spinner would basically be a partnership. And Terry gets to go, despite the fact that Terry doesn't have a boyfriend. Terry's unsure about herself, saying that maybe I shouldn't go. But Paige is like, you'll be with your best friends. That's all that matters. And then Terry and Rick reconnect, and basically everyone is shocked about it. Paige gets mad at Rick for basically ruining her car and all that. She has a right to. And she tries to tell Terry off, but Terry decides to chase after Rick and all that. We all know what happens in the woods. Paige and Spinner realize that Terry and Rick haven't come back, so they decide to run off and try to find them. But of course, Paige and Spinner find Rick with blood on his hands, trying to nurse a comatose Terry. Rick runs off. Paige, instead of chasing after Rick, decides to call 911. And basically, Terry's health is more important than getting Rick back. Paige feels a little guilt-ridden. She even says so, that she should never have let Terry go after Rick in the woods because Terry probably would have been fine and all that. She kind of blames herself in a sense. But in a way, she's happy when it was revealed that Rick was pulled out of school and all that. And basically, we wouldn't have to deal with Rick. So Paige felt a little better. Paige would go on to try to help Terry out and visit her in one of Terry's last few appearances. Basically, Paige then tells Ashley that basically you're your own woman. Basically, don't let anything push you around. That being in the Craig situation. Paige in season 4 would start off with a rape trial. She finally gets her date in court with Dean. Sadly, though, for Paige, she loses because of lack of evidence and all that. It's kind of the police's fault too. But basically, Paige feels helpless, and Dean even admits to raping her. But Paige decides to take Spinner's car and crash it into Dean's car as a way of retaliation. Paige ends up taking the rap for Spinner, even though it was Spinner's car, and basically tells Dean outside the police station that I'm going to confess. That's what good people do when they do bad things. And Dean basically doesn't believe her, saying that basically that why would Paige want to be around Dean unless she has a thing for him? But Paige gets in trouble with the law. She has to do community service. She's not allowed to drive. She is on probation. And she decides to take a job to pay Spinner back for the car and all that. The worst part for Paige is that Spinner would indeed cheat on her with Manny in a sense. And basically, you got to cheer for Paige. When, Spinner's taking advantage of her. Fuck. Paige should have just told Spinner, I will not pay for your stupid car anymore and all that. I wonder if she did that. I think she did that. But hold everything, because even though Paige and Spinner are broken up, Paige has one more problem up her sleeve. Back in Mercy Street, she notices the first line, tell me I'm dreaming. When she realizes that Rick's back at Degrassi. Rick tries to talk to Paige, but Paige doesn't want anything to do with Rick. She warns Emma about, being around Rick and all that. Even though that Rick tries to tell Paige that he's doing much better mentally, and that he wants to know how Terry's doing, Paige runs off to the bathroom, only to tell Emma in the girls' bathroom that basically we need to get rid of this monster and all that, and we have to do it legally and all that, so we won't break the rules. So she asks Emma for help, Emma being the cause girl. So basically, they come up with a plan using orange ribbons and all that, and Paige feels happy about herself. Paige doesn't really get too much into the storyline until Alex tells Paige that Emma may have sympathy towards Rick and may have taken a check, although she ripped it up. Paige basically tells Emma that if you're thinking of wimping out now, you're going to pay for it. But Emma says, no, you got me all wrong. After Emma saves Rick's bacon inadvertently, Paige and the clique decide to ignore Emma and basically, leave Emma high and dry. Paige is seen trying to get Rick out. But here's the funny thing. She does not try to, destroy him by illegal means like some of the students do. We find out that, even though Paige does give Rick a jab in 10 Cents Still Part 1 says that Raj called, he wants his suit back. She's not that far off. She's not that bad and all that. But then in part 2, when Rick comes up to her with the gun, well, she doesn't see the gun. Rick slowly raises it up, but she doesn't see it. Paige says that, I know that we're not on the same page of things. Interesting here. But we may not be best friends. But what happened to you was childish. It should never have happened, and you deserve better. And then Rick slowly puts the gun down and says, "I'm sorry for hurting Terry." And basically, Paige accepts his apology, in a sense. Paige would not be featured until the scene when basically she relays to the students who are locked down in the room with her that there's been a shooting. And that's when Hazel sees Jimmy's desk and all that and starts to pout and all that. Paige doesn't know what to do. Paige figures what type of psycho would do such a thing and all that. Paige doesn't really get too much involved in the story in this storyline after Rick dies, in a sense, because she has her own problems dealing with Mr. Olander, who was the student yoga teacher. And I don't know why Paige fell in love with him. I mean, he's a teacher, for God's sake. She decides to deal with Mr. Olander, despite the fact that, he's a teacher and people are not happy with her. Heck, she forgoes a talk with the principal to go after Olander and puts Manny in her place. Basically, Paige's problems with Olander would basically be fodder for the end of season 4. And basically, Olander does get what he deserves, a firing. He will not be a teacher ever again because of what he did to Paige and all that. And it was weird seeing Paige, protecting Olander, as it seemed. She wanted to leave Degrassi. She said she didn't want to be involved in this situation. I guess maybe she was scared about repercussions on her and all that, despite Olander's lawyer saying that kids sometimes have feelings towards their teachers. We can help you with that. So basically, yeah, that's just weird and all that. Paige and Manny have a cat fight, and basically Paige ends up on the short end of things in season 4. So the big question on everyone's lips is she a villain? In the Rick Murray situation, no, she's not a villain. And if she was a villain, out of 10, I would give her a 6.5 out of 10 on the villain scale. But that's mostly for the early part, and her influencing other people. Now, Rick had an issue with Paige because, he figured that Paige was spreading lies about Rick, an anti-Rick rhetoric. And basically that's why Rick decided to go with the gun towards Paige first and not anyone else. Basically, Rick blamed Paige for, spreading lies and basically trying to feed lies to Emma and all that. Paige was influencing Emma. Paige knew that she would not get her just desserts unless she uses Emma. She basically used Emma because she was a cause girl. Paige didn't care about what Emma thought. She figured that Emma would easily save the day and that, her guilt would be resonated and she would be fine. And the worst part about it is that it's possible that Paige's villainy comes from the part that it's potential. It's not talked about, but as you can probably guess, she basically may have told the whole school to avoid Emma at all costs, basically that Emma was a freaking hypocrite. And basically, that's why Emma didn't find a friend group until the Wacky Rain thing happened. I mean, she has the right to be pissed off, but, she's pissed off at Emma for all of all things, basically because Emma may have shown some sympathy towards Rick. And how Paige is being a queen bee and all that. I think, for my money, the only villainous thing she did was basically tell the whole school not to pay attention to Emma. And maybe, just maybe, some of the students took that as a sign, as basically saying that if Emma gets shot, who the fuck cares? That's how I look at it. But yeah, Paige isn't really a villain, but she's not really in the honorable mention thing. Because, after all, I mean, I like Emma in a sense. In season 4, I sympathize with Emma, but Paige basically may have caused issues towards Emma and her self-esteem to blow up. Paige post-shooting would end up being in a relationship with Alex, being in a lesbian relationship called Palex. And a lot of people were questionable. Paige never had any homosexual tendencies. Why is she with Alex? I guess because my answer would be because the men in her life, especially in season 4, betrayed her. Everyone betrayed her, and then Dean got off scot-free with the rape. She lost Spinner to Manny. That's probably another reason why Paige wanted to beat up on Manny. And basically, she was with Mr. Olander. probably as a way to alleviate her problems with the Rick Murray situation. I mean, yeah, she did have a fall. She did fall for him before Time Stand Still. No, I think it was after Time Stand Still, just about. But basically, Paige may have decided not to get involved in the Rick Murray situation and focus her attention on Olander. Blech. Paige would actually be a decent person, but in university she would have panic attacks, she would have issues, and she would have to go home to Toronto with her tail between her legs. Alex helps her out, but unfortunately Paige doesn't help matters with basically stereotyping Alex as being someone who's terrible and poor and all that. And Paige got a lot of perks and all that. I mean, Paige came from a well-off family. I will do a Degrassi on popular opinions based on Paige's thing, like in seasons 5 and 6 with Palix. But that's neither here or there. Paige would go on to be a reality star assistant or dog walker, and basically auditions for a movie role, I think, like just for the heck of it, and then she gets the role. And basically she acts like a diva. She gets thrown off the show, but basically she helps Manny get the role of Trixie, and she is Jason Mewes' assistant. So at least Paige had a happy ending, in a sense. Paige isn't that bad of a person, but she just used her queen bee persona to try to screw over Emma, and that's unforgivable, in a sense. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.